Hey, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of Edgar Church's Basement, a collectible comics podcast from me, Rob Larson. I run a YouTube channel and a blog called It's All Just Comics, youtube.com/It's All Just Comics and itsallJustComics.com, where I share some research, auction reviews, previews, historical collecting deep dives, that sort of thing. This podcast is a companion to that work where I can talk about comics in a more free-form manner versus the project-based approach that I do on my YouTube channel and blog. This is the second episode and continues to examine the world's most valuable comics. I started that work last week. As I mentioned, when I say the world's most valuable comic books, I mean the specific individual objects, individual pedigree copies, individual CGC graded copies, books that you can point to as a unique item, say, oh, X, Y, and Z owns that. It sold for X, Y, and Z in, 2022, whatever. If you look at other lists like this on the internet, they're either stupid, like New Mutants 98 or Hulk 181 will be on there. Those are valuable books, but they're not the most valuable books in the world. Or they're generic. It'll just say Action Number 1 is the most valuable comic book in the world, which is fine, but it's not specific. It doesn't actually answer the question. My list also includes Action Number 1 at the top, but it's specifically the Edgar Church Mile High copy and not just some generic book. This week, I'm going to work through the second kind of 10 to 15 books on the list. Last week, I discussed the top 10 as it stood in 2021. My goal now is to expand the top 10 list to be 25 books, write an article, publish a video, have all kinds of fun. And the work is being done here. I'm kind of looking at books, discussing them, sharing my thoughts, soliciting feedback. Let me know what you think. And so let's get started. As I mentioned last week, the first book outside of the top 10 was at the time, Kansas City Pedigree Action Comics number 1, CGC 8.0. That book, of course, is now the Kansas City Action number 1, CGC 8.5, and is sold for $6 million. That was the first $1 million comic book. It set the record twice for most valuable comic book in the world. Really cool book. As I mentioned last week, this book is moving into the top 10. It's going to move ahead of the Rusty Staples 8.5 because the Rusty Staples 8.5 has Rusty Staples. So, and it has sold for $6 million. So that's the Mile High Edgar Church Superman number 1, which I'll talk about in a minute, are the books that are anchoring my valuation for the rest of the books in this list. So we're not going to talk about valuation much. We will talk about it, but we're not going to talk about it much. That's going to be the domain of the overall video where I talk about the top 25, where I go into individual detail on every book and give it a value. But as I start to think about it, there are two sales that we have that I'm going to anchor the rest of the books around. And this is one of them. For $6 million, Kansas City Action Comics number 1, CGC 8.5. So it's moving into the top 10. Fun times. Next up, I have two books that are really interesting. They're both in the same collection, by the way. The Mile High Edgar Church copy of Marvel Comics number 1 and Captain America Comics number 1, Allentown Pedigree, CGC 9.8. So at the time in 2021, I had the value of Captain America Comics number 1 at $2.6 million and the church copy of Marvel Comics number 1 valued at 2.5. That's a very specific pecking order hierarchy decision that I've made. I put Captain America Comics number 1 ahead of Marvel Comics number 1. Marvel Comics number 1 has had a bad couple of decades. Most of the CGC era was bad for that book. It had a lot of terrible results. It's had some very, very good results recently. So it's pushed its way back up. But there is no doubting the power of Captain America. There is no doubting the power of the Allentown Pedigree. And there is no doubting the power of a CGC 9.8 Golden Age Key. So I don't know what the order will be here, but both of these books are definitely going to be included. And this is going to be a really interesting discussion point for the final video. Next up, Incredible Hulk number 1, CGC 9.4. It's going to be really interesting to value this one. The three Silver Age Marvels that are in the list, spoilers, are Fantastic Four number 1, CGC 9.6, Amazing Fantasy 15, CGC 9.6, and this single one of one, Incredible Hulk number 1, CGC 9.4. I think the upward pressure on this book, because of how difficult it is, cannot be understated. And this book isn't moving anytime soon. So it's in the best Silver Age collection that I know of. And that's a person who, Tom Berlato, who would look to upgrade. So yeah, the only way this is being sold is if a 9.6 shows up. And if a 9.6 of this book shows up, all bets are off. Next up is the Detective Comics number 27, CGC 8.0, what I call the missing copy. This book sold at Mastronet in 2001, very early in the CGC era. It sold for a pretty high price at the time. Its estimated value when I did this list in 2021 was $3 million. It's gone up since. It's definitely going to be included on the list because I include this book, the other high grade copy, and the Detective Comics number 27, CGC 9.2 copy as three separate books because I don't know if any of them are the same book. Like if, this is the CGC 9.2 copy before it got pressed, or if the CGC 9.2 copies is the quote other high grade copy. So until I know, I'm going to keep all three on the list because I know I've seen examples of all three existing. So, but yeah, this is a book I have a scan of, so at least there's that. And it's going to be interesting to slot this one in when I do the full list. Next up is the Batman #1 Edgar Church copy. I don't know anything about this book other than it exists, and I don't know anything about the grade. The only thing that we can do when we think about the grade is realize that the person that owns this book would be the first person you would shop an upgraded potential Batman #1 to, right? If you had a 9.8 Batman #1, this would be one of the first people you'd call. So he's continued to own this book and hasn't sold it. It hasn't shown up in the wild. So I'm assuming it's the best copy or one of the best copies of Batman #1. And comparing it to a CGC 9.4 is kind of where I'm sitting with valuation. I'm going to add a little bit of a bump because it's a church copy, but that's where we're at. So I'll discuss this book a little bit more in my reasoning for this book a little bit more in the official video. So next up on the also ran list is Batman #1 CGC 9.4. It sold for $2.2 million at Heritage in 2021. It's one of the books that I looked at and said, I better update the top most valuable comic books in the world list because there was a lot of activity in 2021. Obviously, we had the Amazing Fantasy 15 at Heritage, which sold for $3.6 million. But additionally, this copy sold for $2.2 million. And it's, you have to take any results from that year with a grain of salt. It was kind of a bubble era. But you do also have to evaluate those results on their own merit, right? Because somebody did actually pay that money. And in some cases, I kind of discount the results. Spoilers, Amazing Fantasy 15. I don't think that the book has gone down since then, but I don't think it's made great leaps. Batman #1, I have a different feeling about because I feel like this book has been undervalued for a long time. It's the first Joker, first Catwoman, in addition to being Batman in his own title. So I'm a big proponent of this book. So it's going to be interesting to slot both the church copy and this high grade CGC copy in the top 25 list when I publish it. Next up on the also ran list, it's so terrible to call these also rans. They're all amazing books, but you know what I mean. This was my kind of like honorable mention, also rans, not in the top 10, but I should mention them because people would mention the books to me, like, "Oh, what about this book? What about the Church All American Comics number 16?" And so I had to value them, and now I'm gonna actually rank them. So that's the difference. But next up is this book, the Church All American Comics number 16, CGC 9.4, John Verzel's book. This was rumored a long time ago to be the first kind of $1 million comic, and then the sale didn't go through, and it was all crazy. Gorgeous book, church copy, amazing, love it. And yeah, so estimated value at the time was $1.5 million. That's 2021. We're gonna have to figure out where this one slots because it's not an obvious book to me because it just doesn't sell that often in high grade. So, or at all, really. It's difficult to value. Next up on the list was Action Comics #1 CGC 7.5. It sold for $192,000 in 2002. If I remember correctly, it had like a spot of glue or a color touch or something. And it's one of the early books where we're like, well, how come Golden Age books can have a little tiny bit of restoration and get a blue label? And we've never gotten a satisfactory answer, but whatever. This is the world we live in. And it doesn't bother me. I don't go crazy about it. I mean, you know, I have a hard time with the way that the hobby deals with restoration anyway. The rusty staple copy I've talked about previously of Action Number One seems like a pretty big candidate. Anyway, I valued this at $2.5 million. This is not a book that comes up very often, which is interesting because it was like one of the early big sellers and a CGC holder, 2002. Yeah, we'll have to evaluate it. We're gonna actually have to take a look at the CGC census for Action Comics number one because it's crowded at the top. Next up on the honorable mention list is Fantastic Four number one, CGC 9.6. There are two copies of this, one of which I've held, Doug's old copy, now owned by Tom Berlato, and the one that just sold at Heritage for $2 million. So at the time, I valued it at $1.25 million. I think that $2 million result from Heritage was a little soft. So it's going to be interesting to place a value on this book and rank it as I go forward. We're kind of at the bottom of the list, right? So like I have to figure out what the cutoff is for the top 25. Is it $2 million? Like, is it Fantastic Four number one, CGC 9.6? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to figure out. There's been some news about the next book on this list. This is another book I've seen in person. Bashara had it at a comic book convention in Brookline, Massachusetts, many years ago, and I got to ogle it. It's a gorgeous book. Superman number one, Edgar Church, Mile High copy, CGC 8.5. It's now an 8.5. So this book has had some news. So one is it sold for Go Roy. It sold for $5.3 million a few years ago. Briefly held again the record for the most valuable comic book sale of all time. It has also gone into a CGC 8.5 holder, and it's in the Pedigree holder now, which is always nice. So this book is definitely on the list. How far up the list is actually going to be really interesting because I'm dropping Amazing Fantasy 15 down. This book has in fact sold for $5.3 million. I'm making the argument about how valuable Superman number one is. It's going to be interesting to see. Very cool book. One of like my favorite books in the hobby. It's got some internal damage, but it's a gorgeous looking book. Like if you've looked at the scans, I've seen it in person. It's an amazing looking book. So what are you going to do? You can't really beat it unless you have the best copy of Superman number one, which is, it's not up to us mortals. The final book I'm going to talk about this week is Action Comics number one, CGC 8.0, Larson Pedigree. This book has been in the top 10. I'm not sure if it's going to make it into the top 10 this time, but it's certainly a candidate. It's going to be knocking at the door for sure. This book, I had some speculation about whether or not it had some work done to it. It's in a blue label CGC holder, so that speculation is gone, and now we can just value it on its actual merits. And with that, we're done. So far, we've got 22 of a potential 25 books identified. Next week, I'm going to do some examination of candidate books. I'm going to look at the Overstreet top 10. I'm going to look at books like PEP 22 Church Copy, etc., to see what I think they might be valued at. And then after that, the hard work begins where I have to like take all of these books, write them up, come up with valuations, and rank them. Let me know what you think so far. Let me know what you think about some of these books, which have gone up, which have gone down, which should be in the top 10. And if you have any candidates for books that should be in the top 25 that I haven't mentioned yet, please let me know because this is the work of all of us, right? Like it's not just me sitting here. This has never been just me sitting here figuring things out by myself. I have so many people to thank for anything I write, produce, or talk about. So let's continue that trend and give me some ideas. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. And, remember, like and subscribe, share with your friends, etc., all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one.